Vampire Academy. Author Rochelle Mead. Chapter 1. I felt her fear before I heard her screams. Her nightmare pulsed into me, shaking me out of my own dream, which had something to do with a beach and some hot guy rubbing suntan oil on me. Images, hers, not mine, tumbled through my mind. Fire and blood, the smell of smoke, and the twisted metal of a car. The pictures wrapped around me, suffocating me, until some rational part of my brain reminded me this wasn't my dream. I woke up, strands of long, dark hair sticking to my forehead. Lissa lay in her bed, thrashing and screaming. I bolted out of mine quickly, crossing the few feet that separated us. "Liz," I said, shaking her. "Liz, wake up." Her screams dropped off, replaced by small, soft whimpers. "Andre," she moaned. "Oh, God." I helped her sit up. "Liz, you aren't there anymore. Wake up." After a few moments, her eyes fluttered open, and in the dim lighting, I could see a flicker of consciousness start to take over. Her frantic breathing slowed, and she leaned into me, resting her head against my shoulder. I put an arm around her and ran a hand over her hair. "It's okay," I told her gently. "Everything's okay. I had that dream." "Yeah, I know." We sat like that for several minutes, not saying anything else. When I felt her emotions calm down, I leaned over to the nightstand between our beds and turned on the lamp. It glowed dimly, but neither of us really needed much to see by. Attracted by the light, our housemate's cat, Oscar, leapt up onto the sill of the open window. He gave me a wide berth. Animals don't like vampires, for whatever reason, but jumped onto the bed and rubbed his head against Lissa, purring softly. Animals didn't have a problem with Maury, and they all loved Lissa in particular. Smiling, she scratched his chin, and I felt her calm further. "When did we last do a feeding?" I asked, studying her face. Her fair skin was paler than usual. Dark circles hung under her eyes, and there was an air of frailty about her. School had just been hectic this week, and I couldn't remember last time I'd given her blood. "It's been like more than 2 days, hasn't it? 3? Why didn't you say anything?" She shrugged and wouldn't meet my eyes. "You were busy. I didn't want to." "Screw that," I said, shifting into a better position. No wonder she seemed so weak. Oscar, not wanting me any closer, leapt down and returned to the window, where he could watch at a safe distance. "Come on, let's do this." "Rose, come on. It'll make you feel better." I tilted my head and tossed back my hair, burying my neck. I saw her hesitate, but the sight of my neck and what it offered proved too powerful. A hungry expression crossed her face, and her lips parted slightly, exposing the fangs she normally kept hidden while living among humans. Those fangs contrasted oddly with the rest of her features. With her pretty face and pale blonde hair, she looked more like an angel than a vampire. As her teeth neared my bare skin, I felt my heart race with a mix of fear and anticipation. I always hated feeling the latter, but it was nothing I could help, a weakness I couldn't shake. Her fangs bit into me hard, and I cried out at the brief flare of pain. Then it faded, replaced by wonderful golden joy that spread through my body. It was better than any of the times I've been drunk or high. Better than sex, or so I imagined, since I'd never done it. It was a blanket of pure, refined pleasure, wrapping me up and promising everything would be all right in the world. On it went. The chemicals in her saliva triggered the infedora rush, and I lost track of the world, lost track of who I was. Then, regretfully, it was over. It had taken less than a minute. She pulled back, wiping her hand across her lips as she studied me. "You okay?" Yeah. I lay back on the bed, dizzy from the blood loss. "I just need to sleep it off. I'm fine." Her pale jade-green eyes watched me with concern. She stood up. "I'm going to get you something to eat." My protest came awkwardly to my lips, and then she left before I could get a sentence. The buzz from her bite had lessened as soon as she broke the connection, but some of it still lingered in my veins, and I felt a goofy smile cross my lips. Turning my head, I glanced up at Oscar, still sitting in the window. "You don't know what you're missing," I told him. His attention was on something else. Hunkering down into a crouch, he puffed out his jet black fur. Its tail started twitching. My smile faded, and I forced myself to sit up. The world spun, and I waited for it to right itself before trying to stand. When I managed it, the dizziness set again, and this time refused to leave. Still, I felt okay enough to stumble to the window and peer out with Oscar. He eyed me wearily, scooted over a little, and then returned to whatever he held his attention. A warm breeze, unseasonably warm for Portland fall, played with my hair as I leaned out. The street was dark and relatively quiet. It was 3 in the morning, just about the only time a college campus settled down, at least somewhat. The house in which we rented a room for the past 8 months sat on the residential street with old, mismatched houses. Across the road, a streetlight flickered, nearly ready to burn out. It still cast enough light for me to make out the shapes of cars and buildings. In our own yard, I could see the silhouettes of trees and bushes, and a man watching me. I jerked back in surprise. A figure stood by the tree and in the yard about 30 feet away, where he could easily see through the window. He was close enough that I probably could have thrown something and hit him. He was certainly close enough that he could have seen what Liz and I had just done. The shadows covered him so well that even my heightened sight I couldn't make out any of his features, save for his height. He was tall, really tall. He stood there for just a moment, barely discernible, and then stepped back, disappearing into the shadows cast by trees on the far side of the yard. I was pretty sure I saw someone else move nearby and join him before the blackness swallowed them both. Whoever these figures were, Oscar didn't like them. Not counting me, he usually got along with most people, growing upset only when someone posed an immediate danger, and the guy outside hadn't done anything threatening to Oscar. But the cat had sensed something that put him on edge, something similar to what he always sensed in me. Icy fear raced through me, almost, but not quite. Irritating the lovely bliss of Liz's bite. Backing up from the window, I jerked on a pair of jeans that I found on the floor, nearly falling over in the process. Once they were on, I grabbed my coat and Liz's, along with our wallets. Shoving my feet into the first shoes I saw, I headed out the door. Downstairs, I found her in the cramped kitchen, rummaging through the refrigerator. One of our housemates, Jeremy, sat at the table, hand on his forehead, as he stared sadly at the calculus book. Lissa regarded me with surprise. "You shouldn't be up. We have to go, now." Her eyes widened, and then, a moment later, understanding clicked in. Are you sure?" I nodded. I couldn't explain how I knew for sure, I just did. Jeremy watched us curiously. "What's wrong?" An idea came to mind. "Liz, get his keys." He looked back and forth between us. "What are you—" Lissa unhesitantly walked over to him. Her fear poured into me through our psychic bond, but there was something else too. Her complete faith that I would take care of everything, and we would be safe. Like always, I hoped I was worthy of that kind of trust. She smiled broadly and gazed directly into his eyes. For a moment, Jeremy just stared, still confused. Then I saw the thrill seize him. His eyes glazed over as he regarded her adoringly. "We need to borrow your car," she said in a gentle voice. "Where are your keys?"